What do you think of Trump so far? What do you think about what's going on in your country? So do you hold back your good ideas, the ideas that you know that maybe society's not ready for?
And I won't lie, Pisco. When you first start looking into Holocaust now, you get a little like, holy shit, there's a couple fucking anomalies here that are like, what the fuck?
So, Paul, you just recently released a video called Dark Centrism, or What is Dark Centrism?
Yeah,
what
dude.
is Dark Centrism? And I'm going to quote from
professionally
you.
well done. Okay, hit me.
I'm going to quote from you. You said that you're a, quote, servant of darkness.
Servant of darkness, that's right.
That, quote, Dark Centrism is first and foremost a meme, but it refers to a very serious underlying approach to politics and philosophy. So,
yeah,
what is it?
It's basically being right-wing with extra steps. That's how I describe it.
Seriously. Right wing with extra steps. But you do say,
as far as you and your audience is concerned.
No, come on. That's not, I'm not trying to have any preconceived notions about it.
In the simplest sense, dark centrism, it's really just about having empathy. Okay. You see my hoodie here?
Yeah.
Empathy.
Oh shit. Okay. It does say empathy.
All right. It means finding the truth in everyone's perspective and trying to synthesize something greater than the sum of their parts. That's what it means. It's against saying, oh, Republicans are bad by default, or oh, Democrats are evil by default. It's about trying to take the best ideas, rob it from all these different factions, and then unite it. Like, imagine taking the best of nationalism and the best of socialism and creating... Let me reframe that. It's about taking all the good ideas out there and not playing tribal partisan politics, while also not being a bitch-ass moderate centrist, because I can't stand bitch-ass moderate centrist.
You do make the distinction in the video, and that's clear, that this isn't, you're not talking about the consensus moderates, fair?
This is true, although I will say dark centrism involves robbing the bitch-ass moderate centrists of their valid talking points. So like Ezra Klein, when he talks about all the, the abundance folks, all the housing regulation shit, like, if we just fixed housing regulation, we could build more houses. I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. Let's do that. Okay, let's also have a revolution, but also let's do fixing the regulation too at a local level.
Let's start with the first part of it. The first term is dark. What is dark about that? Because what you kind of described is a synthesis of good ideas without kind of worrying too much about the label, without worrying too much about, the preconceived notions about where the ideas come from. What is dark about that? Is it because there could be some ideas that the mainstream considers dark that's in there? And if that is the case,
I like that. That's part of it. Dark woke and dark MAGA and dark Brandon. That's it. I was just stealing from that. It sounded good.
So it's almost meta into itself. You're saying like even the dark trope of it is stealing a good idea from.
Oh my, dude, look how powerful it is. I did not think of the way that you just explained it, but yes, let's go with yes. Oh, look at it. It absorbs it, dude. Oh, it's such a great meme.
Okay, but how are you different from someone like, for example, Joe Manchin?
Joe Manchin, because Joe Manchin probably wouldn't agree with banning short form content from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. every night, which I'd be in favor of the federal government doing. You can't access YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, or TikTok from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Interesting. So it's not necessarily in terms of approach, because Manchin will say something like this: we need common sense, we need good ideas from this or that, but that you're willing to pluck ideas from what the mainstream would consider more radical, I don't know what nexus is, like different centers of political thought.
Yeah. I think the extremists are often in possession of truth. Like the American Communist Party has a point when they're like, yo, at a certain point, there's too much wealth inequality and we need to fucking do something about it. I'm like, yes, we do need to do something about it. I don't think shooting billionaires in the streets is a particularly good or moral idea, but like, it's getting to the point where we need to do something like, to change things. Otherwise, more people will get shot in the street.
Got it. So not afraid to take from the more extreme positions or schools of thought. It's also a philosophical approach that you describe here. To what end? I mean, you mentioned, for example, one policy prescription that you're playing with here is like banning short form content during hours of the day. I didn't hear you say specifically for children, but I think it was more universal.
No, I mean for adults too.
For adults too. So to what end? Is it because you think that it's going to produce what in your mind are good results?
And human flourishing. And it's kind of hard to, it's like the Sam Harris concept of well-being.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of nebulous. It's like health. Health is kind of nebulous, because there's mental health, there's physical health, there's actually trade-offs between like vitality and longevity. It's not clear and defined, but like we can all agree, for example, that being on your phone watching TikToks late into the night is bad. and I'll just start from there. And anyone who disputes that, I'll go get the fuck out of my movement and just use intuition and vibes to marginalize them, because you have to start somewhere.
There's an interesting tension, perhaps. Maybe it's not. You'll have to tell me, because I'm sure that a lot of your intuitions about what leads to good human flourishing or outcomes, however you want to sort of ground that out, will in some part rely on objective evidence or observations that are calculated by reasonable people. And a lot of times those kinds of systems or institutions that create those observations or come to those conclusions are characterized by, either extreme as elitist institutions, liars, corrupted. And so, for example, if someone said to you, well, hang on, this paper says that it's actually not bad to have short form content before bed or something like that. In other words, epistemically, it does feel like there's a tension, and you can talk about it, between the source of knowledge that feeds into your perceptions regarding outcomes and flourishing and sort of the nature of your movement taking from extreme places that usually doubt the sources of those knowledge. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. I don't like how genuine these good questions are. They really are, which makes me want to answer them more seriously.
I'm trying to understand. I'm getting ready
to switch into debate mode real quickly over here.
I know.
Okay, I've got my frame asserted and everything. All right, but hold on, I'll answer that question fair. That's a good question. How do you know what is actually in the direction of human flourishing?
Well, especially given, and it's kind of I know that your movement is supposed to be like kind of independent of the preconceived biases of some of these extreme groups, but oftentimes the source of knowledge itself is criticized by those extremes. Are you also, willing to?
Oh, sure. Well, look, people who say that the elites are the problem are demented. You need elites. Every society has elites, and institutions are good. Look, I trust the FDA on almost everything. Oh, wait, is it the FDA? Yeah, like if I need to know what how long meat is to be perishable, I kind of just lean with whatever they're saying, because it's kind of low stakes. In the case of like mRNA vaccines for children, I'm going to go, this is so new and there's so many conflicting incentives that I think it's reasonable to exercise a level of scrutiny that we wouldn't on 99% of everything else the FDA says. That's fair.
Got it.
And there's some things that are, I would say, self-evident. So for example, maybe not, self-evident for me. Let me ask, just an example I put forward. I think AI, I'll use YouTube friendly language. I think AI CSAM, right? So AI child corn. I think that should be illegal. I don't care what, that should just be illegal. And I don't care how we make it illegal, but it should be, in whatever justification is post hoc. We're starting with, this is wrong and you can't convince me otherwise.
And by wrong here, you mean it doesn't contribute to human flourishing.
Yes, it poisons people's soul. It's satanic. It's bad. Insert whatever moral framework you have, whatever the worst thing in it is, put that for, let's have widespread, hyper-realistic, hyper-abusive AI CSAM available on demand. No human should have access to that, and I will do anything in my power to stop that, and I won't actually entertain arguments to hear otherwise.
In other words, there's also part of your outlook here, which I suppose epistemically is grounded in notions of common sense and just self-evident truths.
Yes, the epistemological term, you could say I'm a phenomenal conservative, not because I'm phenomenal or conservative, even though I'm probably in both, but I believe the technical term is phenomenal conservatism, which means you accept seemings as true. If something seems to be a certain way in terms of sense perception, you should accept it as true until you have reason not to. So, it's sort of like, Paul, it's so interesting. We were just talking about this. We're reading Soren Kierkegaard's Fear and Trembling in our book club, and we're talking about solipsism and faith. I have in any way, shape, or form, it's impossible by definition to prove that you're conscious. Impossible. So if someone were saying to me, Paul, we need to sit down and you need to seriously consider that other people might just be automatons and that you're the only conscious person here. I go, nope, not even going to hear it. Fuck you. Maybe when we're high, we can talk about it as like a fun exercise. I'll probably get a panic attack. Not worth it. You have to draw the line, because otherwise you just become Descartes' demon. You become so paralyzed. Like you have to pull yourself up by your epistemic bootstraps at some point this is my whole point about vibes and intuition, is like, you do have to start at a certain point, and that is actually beneath rational undermining.
And I think most people would, oh, sorry, finish what you're saying. My bad.
Yeah, no, that's basically the gist of it.
I think that most people are happy to grant you some ground there when it comes to this solipsism point, which, you know, I certainly live my life, or I try to live my life as though I'm not the only person that exists or the only conscious entity. Maybe they would grant it. Another example is free will, right? You know, irrespective of, even if it's a coherent question to ask, whether there is such a thing as free will or whether it is in fact true, people act as though that there is some that they're genuine authors of their actions or whatever. And I would certainly say, probably in the context of like CSAM, abuse of children, this kind of stuff, people are happy to say, yeah, I don't need to have it be explained to me the potential for an ethical consumption of this. Like, it just is bad. I don't even have to think about it. I don't even want to hear arguments to the contrary.
I don't need a peer-reviewed study to tell me it's bad and that it should be illegal.
So all that stuff tracks with me in terms of how people tend to think about these different issues. When we start to get to other things, though, where there is more controversy, where there is a difference of opinion, where people's self-evident intuitions don't turn on, or we have some reason to think they ought not turn on, that they should think about things more critically. Say, for example, the extent of, I'll just use one that's in the zeitgeist right now, the extent of culpability implicated by the Epstein files. You know, this is something, I don't know if you've been watching, I didn't see your debate with Michael Tracy, but I've been following
you didn't see me call him autistic?
Oh, no, I saw maybe...
I've come to the conclusion, Michael Tracy is not a pedophile, okay? He's a weapons-grade autist, okay? High-functioning, certainly. And perhaps a necessary one. Actually, for sure, a necessary one. But he's definitely autistic. He's not a pedophile.
And I think that
Michael Tracy.
I think that that Tracy is correct about some of his criticisms on the maximalist positions, that they're not justified by the evidence. But I also think that he's a Epstein minimalist, which I find also...
He's basically chosen to over-index on a type 1 error at the cost of a type 2. And he's blaming everyone for maximizing the type 2. It's like, well, you're just causing the type 1. You're minimizing.
So here we have an issue where I bet if you asked Americans and polled them, and I think there are polls that suggest this, that something approaching 60%, if not more, believe that our recent invasion or strikes on Iran are motivated in some part to cover up for the Epstein files. I bet if you asked them, they would think that any number of elites that you could just name off are implicated in the Epstein files specifically. I'm sure if you asked about Trump, it would be something like high 50s, 60s. And if you were to say something like this, like, I really just think that Epstein's criminality probably extends as far as a few people, him and Ghislaine, and maybe Andrew, a couple other people, but it doesn't go so far as the maximalist claims. I think the majority of the country would be against you actually on that position. So my whole question is, here's an issue where there is a very strong intuition on behalf of many people as to the truth or falsity of the various different claims. How would you approach an issue like that, where it can raise the same kind of passions sort of raised by digital CSAM or whatever?
I don't think that one is, well, we're talking about two different things. People's intuitions on this are the way that they are for a variety of reasons, in part because of all the misinformation and fucking flooding the zone with all this bullshit about eating babies and shit, of which there's zero evidence of, and it actually discredits all the people who are, of my opinion, which is what the Epstein files speak to, is the degree to which basically the elite class, Republican and Democrat, you can kind of view it like a very corrupt fraternity, where not everyone in the fraternity is guilty of a crime. Some of them are completely guilty of some of the worst crimes. And, it's kind of a concentric circle of how many knew about what and who was on the outside and all that. And, but the whole thing is, broadly speaking, rotten. But that doesn't mean we should just, anyone who's talked to Epstein.
But it's not self-evidently rotten, right? It's rotten in virtue of evidence that you've seen and that you're able to draw conclusions from.
Yeah. So I can just tell you the simplest thing is we need very rigorous, rational, evidence-based analysis, which is among the most, there's nothing more dark centrist than evidence-based analysis. Okay. And hyper-rationality. Vibes and intuition are not opposed, they're complementary. And really, vibes only has superiority over logic and rationality in terms of trying to convince someone of an idea. In terms of actually finding out what's true, I liken it to, you play RPGs, you play Skyrim, you play Oblivion.
Yeah.
You play that shit? You know how that works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Skill trees. There's blacksmithing, and then there's swords swinging.
Blades.
Or whatever the fuck it is. Blade. Yes. Blade, blunt, bow. I'm autistic. I know all the fucking things. Okay. They're two completely different skill trees. Blacksmithing, if you have 100 points in blacksmithing, you can forge a diamond crusted, dwarven, enchanted axe, whatever. But if you have 0 ability to swing it, then it's pointless. And you could have 100 blade skill, but if you're armed with a stick, it's pointless. And so blacksmithing is like Socratic rational evidence-based analysis. Like you gotta have a powerful weapon in theory with which to go out into the world. But vibes and intuition is, well, now that I have this theory, can I go out and actually communicate and live out in the world and embody it? Like, oh my God, like let's say you're 100%, you have the final truth on the Epstein files. Or like just a science debate. Like let's say you actually you're 100% sure the science says this. You need to go out and communicate that in a way that will not just speak to the truth, but it will also hook into people's intuitions in a way that that validates the true parts of their worldview while also not, falsifying things. So it gets very squirrely. So when it comes to like, how do we know what's true? Rationality all the way, baby. Okay. Nobody loves Jordan Peterson more than I do. And that man, well, he was a little schizo. Let's be real. He did a lot of mushrooms.
He's going through some problems.
Correct, true. But, logical articulate. All my videos where I say logic is inferior to vibes, it's a performative contradiction because I'm trying to make out a very evidence-based case where I'm citing like neuroscience lectures.
Can we pause real quick on a digression and say,
please
give 2 sentences on why you admire Jordan Peterson?
Why do I admire Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
Well, when I first encountered him, he was articulating very apt, accurate, for me, never before heard clinical psychological advice that has unmistakably improved my life, the degree to which I've acted on it. And then for a while I was caught in Jordan Peterson's right about everything because he was right about this thing, which he was right about, the clinical psychological advice. Therefore, he must be right about everything else. And I was too blind and too...
And so you've retreated from
ingratiated.
That. Right, yeah.
But then, then he joined the Daily Wire. And I was like, wait a second here. Something's add up here. This guy ain't as sounding as rational as I thought he was.
Interesting.
And then I've woken up a little bit.
But you haven't abandoned this notion that intuition and rationality are not necessarily, or the process, whatever you want to call that, the more scientific process, the more evidence-based process, isn't necessarily contradictory to intuition.
No, they're necessarily complementary. I mean, look, I know how the term, like if someone says, oh, we're just going to do policy based on vibes, like what they're conveying, I also share, disagreement with, like the wealth tax. Let's just tax a percentage of wealth. The wealth tax is the worst policy you could. This is a bit of a this is okay. I'm exaggerating, but just to get the feeling across, I'd rather have a nuke go off in insert whatever city that you dislike most in America than have the wealth. Not actually. There's wealth tax is really bad. That's my point. Okay, wealth tax is awful. And there's technical reasons for it. About the moment you implement a wealth tax, the stock market now, all the values of stocks suddenly shift and things get sold off. And plus you got to sell assets to come up with the cash to pay the taxes. There's all kinds of technical stuff. So that's an example of a vibes-based policy that sucks. And so I'm against that. My defense of vibes is like, look, if someone has an intuition, that like too much immigration is bad, or that religion has there's something really wrong with religion. Like you got to validate those intuitions. Like I used to make fun of cringe atheists. I look at that. I even call them cringe atheists. But like, then it's like, wait a minute. There's a lot of people that had genuine religious trauma that like when they were a child got like fucking abused by the church. And so the fact that they have such a negative attitude towards religion, even though I didn't experience that and I think they're wrong, I still got to be honest and be like, you are 100% right. There's endless amounts of hypocrisy in the church.
It's funny you say that because
that's the point about intuition.
A lot of the Jordan Peterson era, I would almost call it the pushback to a lefty race consciousness or race-based approach, identity politics type stuff, is grounded in this, or at least I thought it was grounded in this notion that these lefties were arguing from a place of feelings, that they were arguing from a place of, well, it just feels racist when you say this. And that was an intuition and sort of perception that people like Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Milo Yiannopoulos didn't feel at all any inclination whatsoever to cater to.
All right, are we debating now? Is this the confrontation part of the thing? I'm
asking, how do you deal with this? So
I'm kidding.
How do you separate the good vibes, the bad vibes, and is it vibes that separate the good vibes? And so help me out.
How do you tell when one song is better than the other?
No, I don't know. I think you just know.
But are you confident that you can tell if one song is better than another?
I think I could, yeah.
but you don't know how.
Well, I think it depends on what it means for it to be better. If by better we mean more appealing to me.
Yeah. Like you're able to, for your individual self, you're able to differentiate quality of music, right?
Yeah, for myself. Yeah.
Correct. But you don't know how, and you can't articulate it rationally.
I don't think I could.
I also bet if I showed you like 3 random samples of music, especially if they varied in like quality, like in pretty obvious quality, you could actually predict with a pretty high degree of certainty which songs would be more popular. Like someone singing out of tune doesn't sound as good as someone singing in tune, but you can't explain rationally why it's better per se.
I can, an evolutionary biologist could give you a story. They could tell you a story about it.
Sure, post hoc, yeah.
Some psychologist could tell you a story about what you listened to as a kid. And afterwards, you can say, well, no, I just really like melodies that go like this when you start to observe your taste. But you're just observing your taste. You're not explaining your taste. And I think that's where you're getting at. But keep going.
So when you're asking me, how do I determine good vibes versus bad vibes? It's like, well, if some rich, privileged 25-year-old black woman who has a law degree is saying, I'm living in an era that is more racism than Jim Crow, I go, bad vibes. If I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, whose dad was killed by the KKK and his house burned down with him still in it, and then he spent like 30 years witnessing the degeneracy of white people, I'd go, okay, well, when he hates white people, that makes more sense, right? That there's more validity to the vibes here. The vibes are more attuned to reality than the hyperprivileged person.
And attuned to reality here means you get it, like you see it, you vibe with it. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which and everyone watching know. I can't articulate it. No one can. That's the whole point. But like, if I say the vibes of the conversation were off, everyone knows what that means. They might think of like the vibes for them might be off in different ways, but like everyone knows what an engaged conversation versus the vibes are off conversation.
But reasonable minds can disagree in experiencing the same situation.
Sure. Yeah, totally. Oh, there's a gray area. Yeah. I mean, look, it's and oh my God, you're going to love my video tomorrow.
Oh, you got one coming out?
Let's go. Perception is reality solved in 5 minutes. You ever seen the green needle brainstorm thing?
Never seen it.
You know the phenomenon where someone can play a noise and depending on what words you're looking at, you actually hear those words?
No. Does this mean that I'm like not a real person if I don't have that experience?
No.
Because there's this sort of,
holy shit.
Because there are like certain
maybe I'm the only
like,
conscious one.
No,
really
I think I'm the only conscious person. There's these tests where if you don't have an internal monologue, have you heard of people who like don't have an internal?
Do you not have an internal
voice?
monologue?
I have a voice. That's in my head. But I have an internal monologue. I'm saying there's certain tests.
This is always the trippiest conversation for me because I'm always like, well, I don't hear, like I'm not I don't hear like sound.
Yeah.
I think I have but I don't know what that fucking means for someone else. And maybe it's just a trick of language. Anyway, there's a popular phenomenon where it's not that hard to intuit. I'm sure if you saw it, because it's a sense perception thing of just, you hear like a noise and depending on what words you're looking at, you'll actually hear that noise. Even though it's the same noise, so it's brainstorm green needle. You could even pull it up.
I think I have done that before.
It's like brainstorm green needle.
Oh,
like
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's an example of literally the exact same, objective phenomenon being received and it having completely alternate internal senses of reality, and both of those internal senses of reality are true, quote unquote.
Quote unquote, yeah.
Right? And so, that's a real fundamental philosophical problem, Pisco.
Got it. Yeah, no, back to, so we've gotten way in the weeds in terms of how we know things and sort of some of the epistemic stuff. Let's back up more to Dark Centrism as such.
Yes,
fair to say, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Dark Centrism as such, it sounds like an approach. It doesn't really sound like a set or bundle of particular ideas.
Correct. It is an approach. It is an ongoing approach. And it moves and ebbs and flows with the wind. It's kind of like philosophical pragmatism. Well, not really. What's a better example? I've used this 1,000 times, that it's an approach, not a set of ideas. I should have a better analogy at hand ready to explain it. You're right. Yes, I could be convinced of various individual policy things.
So why am I not a dark centrist then? I mean, I use some vibes.
Because you're a fucking... I'll tell you why you're not a dark centrist, Pisco. You're a fucking lawyer, okay?
And we don't have time. Can't be dark centrist?
Okay, let me revise that. You're an annoying debate bro lawyer. That's what you are.
I'm not debating you.
And I will tell you, annoying debate bro lawyers absolutely cannot be dark centrist. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Well, not really. I'm half kidding. Given how well this conversation
Someone
has gone.
says he's saying you don't have aura. Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't say that out loud.
But is it what you're saying?
Well, you clearly have aura. Okay. And different people's auras appeal to different people at different times. I would say you are dark.
That's like, by the way, when you say that, that's like saying all women are beautiful, really. I mean, everyone's got some person out there for them.
Well,
you can be honest.
That's a good intuition.
If part of dark centrism is just having good vibes and like being someone who doesn't come off as geeky or nerdy or like a spaz, you can just say that.
Well, I don't know anyone who would identify with being nerdy, geeky, and coming off as a spaz.
Whether you identify
what ideology or not.
Like Wick TV, he's not a dark centrist, is he?
No, he seems kind of like a libtard, if you ask me. Wick. That's right. Yeah. Clip it. Wick is a libtard. No, I'm just kidding. It depends. I mean, here's what I say. Here's what I'll tell you. The conversation that I moderated between you and Dave Green. At the front half of the first hour of that conversation, in which it culminated with you saying, "You're cooked, bro."
Yeah.
You were an annoying debate bro, libtard leftist. That's what you were. But in the second half, when we actually got to a substantive philosophical discussion about kind of executive overreach and, where that's dark centrist right there. Because you and Dave Green, could very easily just be pure debate bro all day, your political enemies, all that. But then the fact that we were able to turn it off and actually get to some substantive discussion. So you have you embody some of dark centrism some of the time. But
that is when when I'm not. But it's more of like my approach, and then it's not even kind of my epistemic approach. It's kind of like my sort of social approach. Yeah, like what I would say. Yeah,
it's almost as if that when you embody empathy is when you are in your darkest hour.
And here's sometimes the response to that. Although the whole point of this first part of our conversation is just kind of getting a grasp of this approach.
It's to make me comfortable so then you can come in with the receipts.
No. The second part
I'm fucking ready.
The second part I'm going to ask about the current political climate and your views on it. And
nice. All right.
Maybe you can apply dark centrism. Maybe it's just your views. So,
I will.
Okay. So it sounds like part of it is not just intellectually how you approach a conversation, but sort of socially how you approach it. And what some people say in response to the style of conversation that I had maybe in the second part of that Dave Smith conversation or Dave
Green.
Oh my God, Green conversation is you're not pushing back hard enough. You're letting bad ideas percolate and you need to provide pushback because it's an imperative to do so.
I see. That's a great objection. It depends on what game you're playing. And actually, it depends more on who your audience is. Are you smarter than your audience, would you say, on average? Because I can tell you, I am definitely not smarter than my audience on average. All right. I am
than an average person dumber. Or the collective knowledge of my
Pisco. How many people are watching this? A couple hundred? Your average
345 on YouTube, 75 on Twitch.
Okay. Would you say do you think the majority of your audience will more or less go with what you say?
No.
Okay. So they mostly think for themselves.
I think the audience that I've cultivated are people who probably already agree with me on a lot of stuff, but not just because I say it. I think I influence people, but I think I have enough
there's
people.
No doubt about that.
And I think that I'm cultivating a community of people who disagree with me, and I know that a lot of my views are not taken up by my audience. I don't have that capture. The way someone, for example, who I watch a lot, Nick Fuentes, does have that capture. And is able to have almost like
Destiny or Hasan. I would say Destiny, Hasan, Nick Fuentes are three examples of a huge chunk of their audiences will literally just go with whatever they say. That's just it.
So I don't think that I had that kind of magnetic hold on people watch me, and they will leave if I become a Republican or if I start to sound stupid or in their view.
Sure. The overwhelming majority of my audience hates me, which is great. Keeps me on. I have the opposite problem of audience capture. So I definitely don't tell people what to think. Now I do, of course, obviously there's like some people who are like, yes, I love your stuff and you're great and all that. It's way more than people would think, but that's fine. But like I influence people, and plus the things that I choose to highlight influence people. So like simply just choosing to pull up one clip versus another is an act of influencing. So it's not like there's no influence here. But I guess the broader point is I don't believe that meticulously understanding exactly what your opponent thinks, I think that's essential for defeating them. And if people say, oh, but you're letting good ideas spread, it's like, you're letting bad ideas spread. Yeah. It's like, if they're bad ideas, the better you understand them, the more easily you'll be able to deconstruct and destroy them.
Yeah, there's a kind of like a timescale response to the response, which is like, well, just let them say it, and then later on we can talk about it. And as it gets explored, the kind of marketplace of ideas thing. If it's a bad idea, the natural tendency will be for the idea to be defeated. But you know as well as I do that if there's a marketplace of ideas, it is not a perfect market. There are a great deal of market failures with respect to ideas, and a lot of bullshit memes take hold. And so, yeah, maybe that's right. Maybe within respective audiences. But yeah, talk it out.
I would say that's a function of culture more so than the marketplace of ideas specifically. I mean, did you see my video on mimetic feudalism by any chance?
I might have actually.
It's basically just the idea that like, imagine a feudal structure where like instead of, the king is like Jordan Peterson is a king of the Petersonian worldview.
Okay.
And then he has influencers that then influence other people. Like, you know who CJ the X is? I think I did see this.
I don't know who that is though.
Okay, CJ the X is like a left-wing video essayist, dresses like a woman, is non-binary. Like, but he goes by he, they, and I'm friends with him. So him. He articulates, like, just injects straight up maps of meaning right into his left-wing audience's veins. And I look like a white nationalist, and I do it to my audience. But his audience of transgender people and all that, and left-wingers are going to get essentially the same memes as my audience of dark centrists or whatever, of, chuds or frat bros or whatever you want to assume my audience is. And they're both serving the same feudal lord, if that makes sense. So it's two separate, it's like the Lannisters and the Starks might hate each other, but because they're serving the same king, they end up working together. So mimetic feudalism is an idea happens up front and then it spreads, basically. Right.
Right. So maybe there's a fear on that point that when I interact with, for example, far left-wing people, I had Taylor Lorenz on the other day to discuss something that I thought that nobody
loves women more than I do.
That we should have all agree on. That is a master that we should all serve. That is free speech and discourse. You might disagree with that, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that in a second about rights.
Please.
But there was this big pushback, I think, from a lot of people saying, why do you have this person on? She's a liar. She says all this stuff. She is not in it for the team. And so I do also think that part of what you're describing here, the associations, the circle of relationships that maybe is part of the aspect of mimetic feudalism that you're describing, that this is operating on the audience level and affecting how they see discourse and discussions. Not just what's being expressed within them, but who is the one offering ideas in any given space. And so to the extent that you have a view on dark centrism and how it affects your desire or ability to interact with other people, do you put any walls to ideas, to particular creators? Is anyone too toxic for you?
Yes. Well, I wouldn't use the term too toxic for me. But for example, I talk to actual literal neo-Nazis who deny the Holocaust. They send me all these articles by who knows what's his fucking face or whatever. And I've recorded those some of them, and I'm just like, I can't put this out there. Because I do have these empathetic, I'm just going to let you talk and I'm going to try and genuinely understand it. And there's a couple reasons I don't do that. First off, I don't want to get another fucking YouTube strike. So if I had absolute assurance that I wouldn't get struck, I'd be more inclined to do it. I do think there is something of like I could pick something, like if someone came on and just wanted to endlessly provide evidence for how the Maoist genocides didn't happen, I'd be like, I could host a debate. I actually would love to host a debate between the Nazi guy I know and someone else. Actually, that would be funny. They're both denying each other's genocide. But I don't post those for a variety of reasons, I suppose. And I guess you're asking, what are those reasons, or what's my litmus test?
Because
I believe
you've
everything
sold this method that is going to unabashedly take from the strong ideas, that is, irrespective of their source. And some truly awful people have had some seriously good ideas.
Correct. Yeah. 100%. There's a couple factors. First off, it depends on over what time period. So, for example, if I only had one, if I knew I only had one opportunity to interview Donald Trump or Nick Fuentes or something like that, and I didn't take that opportunity to offer real pushback that needed to be and ask scathing questions or whatever that needed to be asked, I would have failed. However, if I'm in the digital realm and we're playing repeated games over, and I've talked to you 4 times or whatever, that we have a rapport that allows us to even have this level of conversation to begin with, it is a different strategy. It's just a function of time delay between when do you let someone spew their ideas and then when do you offer the pushback. What I've found with the neo-Nazis, it's really just one guy. I don't know that many neo-Nazis, even for as terminally online as I am. It's really just one guy. I've talked to him to the point where I've gotten to know some of his personal stuff, and there's just my whole theory is you can't really be a genuine. There's exceptions to this, but most of the time, most of the genuine neo-Nazis you see are psychologically ill along some dimension, and I would say this person has unresolved childhood trauma. And I've told that to his face. And here's the thing. The reason I'm not willing to then, why don't you just post an hour conversation of just having the ideas? I'd say it's almost dishonest to just broadcast that part of the conversation when I know the most important part of the conversation is the personal childhood stuff, and who's going to want to have a recorded conversation and have that posted. So that's in that case with the neo-Nazi thing. Taylor Lorenz, for as much as I disagree with her, I wouldn't call her a neo-Nazi. I think I really hate that she pushes back against banning phones in schools. I think it's the most cringe, pathetic. Well, these kids are going to have anxiety about climate change. Lady, no one had a phone in school, okay? And we survived. So fuck this bullshit. My litmus test, if something was just invented in the last 20 years, it's not a necessity, okay? So anyway, I don't like Taylor Lorenz.
Yeah, no, noted. Okay, so
but outside of neo-Nazis, just talk about the ideas. Why not? Who's getting mad? Pisco, I sense a genuine struggle that you're having here.
Oh,
you're trying to build a coalition. I'm trying to build a coalition, and you're having these dipshits. Let's be real. I have the same problem. It's probably some Destiny fans. Okay, we've all been there. Everyone in the orbit. I'm getting a lot of Nick Fuentes fans now too. It's. I take it from all sides as a dark centrist. I take it from every direction, and in every. Never mind. I won't finish that. But some people just got to be like, shut the fuck up, you little bitch. And anyone who's like, you shouldn't have Taylor Lorenz. It's like, who in your audience is getting convinced by Taylor Lorenz?
No, I'm just saying, as a sort of an approach, a perspective, are you practicing what you preach? And are you really willing, for the most part, again, every rule has an exceptions. Are you really willing to take the best ideas from the most radical, the most,
yes,
some might say, out
extreme.
There people. Extreme.
There's a famous video of Bertrand Russell, where he and usually it's played over like TikTok inspirational music, and it's him saying someone asks him, he's like on the verge of death, but he's still lucid. They're like, what wisdom would you give the next generation? And he says something to the effect of, no matter what you do, you must always evaluate truth only for its truthfulness, never about the social consequences of whether or not this, if it was, would it be better or worse for the world to be true? You must only ever evaluate truth as such, nothing else. And that's pretty much the dark centrist ethos. And then, that's why I end up having to do all this research into Holocaust denial and shit. Cause I'm like, look, if they're going to say this, I got to confront it. And I won't lie, Pisco. When you first start looking into Holocaust denial, you get a little like, holy shit, there's a couple fucking anomalies here that are like, what the fuck? And then you keep talking to these people 2 or 3 or 4 times. And then you start actually pushing back against their arguments when you have trust with them. And then you realize the Holocaust definitely happened, and these people are fucking autistic. Because the only way that I can send you this speech from Himmler and you somehow write it off is that it was some other autistic bullshit.
So do you hold back your good ideas, the ideas that you know that maybe society's not ready for? I mean, it's all well and good to say that, you know, truth shouldn't be impacted by social consequence, but you mentioned, you know, we're trying to live in the world here. We're not trying to get banned. So shouldn't it be just a matter of pragmatism that you hold back?
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Well, I could tell you that I could just completely divulge the contents of my childhood. That would be being truthful, and it would directly impact how people see what I'm saying. But you do have to be strategic. Well, okay, what's the price I pay for that? Well, now a bunch of fucking Destiny fans are going to throw this in my face.
Right. Yeah. So just because you have an idea doesn't mean that you have an affirmative obligation to put out all of your ideas all the time, no matter what, even if without throw caution in the wind, in other words.
Correct. Well, if it's really a good idea, then you should be able to say it to a normal psychological person and it'd be fine. If it's really a good idea, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like you have to be able to articulate it as such. Otherwise, it's not a good idea. If it's a good idea, but when you communicate it, it sounds ridiculous. Well, then it's not a good idea because an idea is a function of language, right?
Is Ben Shapiro a real American?
It's encoded in language. Is Ben Shapiro a real American? Oh, here we go. You warmed me up. Ben Shapiro, I think, cares more about Israel than the United States. I think Ben Shapiro has dual loyalty, and the thing that Ben Shapiro canceled Nick Fuentes for is 100% true.
So the reason I asked that is because
wait, hold on. Do you think Ben Shapiro cares more about Israel than the United States?
I'm not sure. I think his conception of America.
Ben Shapiro is a religious Jew, remember, and Israel is the holy land for religious Jews and Christian Zionists.
So Americanism, as I understand it, and America as I understand it, the answer I think is yes, I think he does. But okay, I don't think that makes him not an American, because my conception of American is maybe different than
I wouldn't
yours.
say Ben Shapiro is not an American. I would just say he cares more about Israel than America. I guess spiritually, I could say in some sense you're not, that makes him not an American. But
if you felt that, would you disclose it? For example, there are people who say, and I'm not going to even push you on this one, but Vivek Ramaswamy is not a real American. That's people, some people say that.
No, Vivek Ramaswamy for sure is a real American.
But I
mean, he's assimilated as fuck.
I remember I had this conversation with Drew Pavlou, and he was talking about Rishi Sunak. You know who that is? He's like an Australian.
Yeah, the British. Mayor of London.
My bad. Drew Pavlou is an Australian influencer guy.
Yeah.
And Rishi Sunak was the prime minister of UK, and he said Rishi Sunak, but he has Asian origin.
That's right. Is it Sadiq Khan is the mayor of London?
Yeah.
Okay, I switched the brown Muslim guys in my head. Sorry about that. Racist. Racist. Sorry.
And he said Rishi Sunak is almost fully assimilated, or something like that. But the only reason I push you on those is just to see what are the dangerous ideas that you're espousing as part of your dark centrism push.
What are the dangerous ideas?
Yeah, or what are the corners from which you're drawing from, and what conclusions are you drawing that might rub mainstream centrists the wrong way?
You've slow roasted me so well, I'm inclined to give you an honest answer.
Yeah.
I was ready to come here. I'm just empathetic. I just have empathy. That's it. My frame is empathy. Oh, if you're against dark centrism, you lack empathy. What is your question? What's my most dangerous dark idea?
What are examples? So we have some sense of dark centrism. There's some there's a process aspect to it. There's you've described about why you think it's something that you want to espouse.
Yeah.
But how does it manifest in you? What are the ideas that it's leading you to, as applied to you? Oh,
sure. Oh, yeah. Well, this is the simple heuristic that I operate by is rob your opponents of their best and correct talking points.
No, the process method. But I'm saying you've done that.
Yeah, so apply it to like Nick Fuentes.
Apply it to you. Yeah. Oh. What have you done? Where have you stolen from that you think is valuable? And what is the most extreme set
I've stolen from everyone.
Okay.
Like I said, the neo-Nazis I talked to have told me, oh, we're going to get it. Hold on. Do you want to talk about Holocaust denial on YouTube?
No. I'm just saying, like, what are the extreme ideas that you've manifested where, what are the recesses of the extremes that you've drawn from that you hold?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Fine. What I just said to you, that like, I think Ben Shapiro cares more about Israel than the United States. A lot of people literally believe that that's anti-Semitic to say that makes you a Nazi. That's literally what Ben Shapiro quoted Nick Fuentes as, saying that American Jew has more loyalty to another nation is like a classic anti-Semitic trope. That's 100% true. The statement Ben Shapiro cares more about Israel than the United States, I believe, is 100% true. And I will unabashedly say that and convince other people to say that because I think it's true. And I'll provide all the evidence that I can for it. When he says, the single greatest guarantor of my loyalty to the United States is the existence of the state of Israel, end quote. How is that not the definition of the single biggest guarantor of my loyalty to the country I live in is the existence of a foreign country? And people can go watch that clip, and it's up to them to decide. And fair enough, you can deconstruct anything you want. I think it's self-evident. And the fact that he's a religious Jew and his religion compels him to care more, it's like these are just obvious things. So that's pretty dark centrist of me to go out around saying that. Wouldn't you agree? Isn't that a pretty radical thing to say? I
don't know how radical it is these days. I think that
true. Thank you, Nick Fuentes and Hasan Piker. Let's rob them. This is my point. You understand? I don't know. You said you watch a lot of Nick Fuentes, right?
I do, yeah.
Have you gotten the sense that it's kind of like, all right, I'm kind of the returns are starting to diminish for him, like kind of culturally. Like he's not that novel anymore. It's like, he's not that interesting, really. Have you gotten that sense?
I've gotten the sense that he is frustrated at times with not having ownership over aspects of what he's created. And I think he has I think he has a contrarianism in him that is self-defeating in many ways to his political ambitions.
Yes,
and
correct.
Well, even if it sometimes manifests in seeming that he's able to predict things to his audience or whatever, and that does, I think, ingratiate himself to a specific audience, the need, it also makes him very changeable, and it prevents, I think, a stable orthodoxy, notwithstanding his claims to be stable in his worldview. He's the real guy. He's always been the same. He hasn't changed. So I do think that there's he'll see, for example, other, I think, genuinely anti-Semitic people, and I do think, by the way, he is anti-Semitic. Other anti-Semitic people as well.
I would agree. For the record, okay. I believe Nick Fuentes is anti-Semitic. He says so himself.
Who will say things like, Israel killed Charlie Kirk, or they'll say things like, all of it's, everything's the Jews, right?
Yeah,
Where he'll roll his eyes, and so this is just a way of me saying that I think that there is him specifically as a personality, always a tension between him wanting to be on the cutting edge, him wanting to be a contrarian, and him being like really disgusted by conformity and disgusted by a consensus.
Yes, I think you're right. My point is,
you were saying that isn't it radical to say that? And I said, I'm not sure how radical it is these days to say someone like Mark Levin or
100%. I would never have, I probably would have agreed that, the term dual, okay, here's something, ready? Organized Jewry. Let me tell you something, Pisco. This is a vibes thing, okay? Anyone who says the term, if I ever met someone just kind of like at a bar and they relatively quickly said the term organized Jewry, I'd go, this guy's a fucking Nazi. Okay.
Yeah, just because the word has the baggage, it's no different than
gross. Sounds like Jewry. That's
but the same is true of dual loyalty.
Dual loyalty, exactly. But dual. That's how I felt about dual loyalty 3-4 years ago, or however many years ago. And then I look at how Ben Shapiro acts, and I actually look into what he says, and I go, well, this is self-evidently what this is. And and then also you learn that the term organized Jewry world Jewry is literally used by, this is what Nick Fuentes said in his interview with Piers Morgan. The state of world Jewry is literally the title of the speech that the World Zionist Congress gives every year, and Barry Weiss has given it. So it's like, wait a minute. So actually, world Jewry is a term that the World Zionist Congress uses on a regular basis. So these bad vibes are almost artificially constructed.
I I think there's a way that words can take on different meanings for different groups in different contexts, and that's not surprising among like humans. So the classic example of that is like the N-word. You will look differently at someone who uses the N-word depending on what their race is. And again, with all the edge cases there, you will look differently at them where they are. If someone says, I believe in white culture, or like we need to have
did you just put out an accent when you said that?
A little bit.
I believe in white culture. Oh my god! I now do a black.
If someone
accent.
says, "No," you see, very different, very
coward.
different. Yeah. And there's a difference implication also when people say, we need a white affinity group on the basis of whiteness.
Ooh,
we'll talk about that. Yeah,
it's fucking 9:20 in my apartment. Actually, it's not that late. Okay, I was gonna ask you a question. This is interesting.
Yeah.
So when I was in Dallas, I volunteered for the local high school there. I was mentoring. And it was like a 90% Hispanic high school. Or no, I think it was like 80. They had the demographics on their website. It's like 81% Hispanic, 11% black, 2% Asian, 6% white. Okay, so in a high school in Dallas, 6% of the people there are white. Now, when I went to high school, it was probably the reverse. It was probably like 80, 90% white. And at my high school, there was like a black affinity group.
Yeah.
Right, where all the black kids could go and hang out and talk about black culture and all that shit. Like, great. Anyone who would be opposed, if there was some fucking nerd or loser in my high school being like, actually, we should oppose this, but like, dude, shut the fuck up. You're a nerd. And I'd be correct. The question is, Pisco, if you were a high school administrator, would you allow the 6% of the white kids if they're the minority in their high school to start, the exciting whites club where they talk about European history?
Presumably not. No,
presumably not.
Well, hang on a second. I would allow a European Studies
fucking
club.
Racist.
Wait. I would allow a European Studies club, and I would not allow for a black student organization to deny access to white people who want to be part of like a Black History Club or a Black Affinity group.
Sure. Okay. So the example would be black. I don't know. I've never joined one of these, so I don't know what they're like. But Black Affinity group, let's say. I know that's a term. Okay.
I actually would you allow a white affinity group? So a white affinity group.
Yes. In a high school where only 6% of the students are white and everyone else is Hispanic or black or Asian, is it fair to give those minority students the opportunity to form? It can't be called the White Power Club. It can be called Exciting Whites or the Euro Steppers, but it can't be called White Power.
In principle, I don't have a problem with an affinity group.
But your vibes are telling you.
But my vibes are telling me. Yeah, no, I'm honest about that. Because, and that's informed by history and context, which of course it needs to be.
Yeah. Cultural programming, yes. And we need programming. I don't mean that as like a programming means like, oh, you're programming things. It's like stealing is bad as cultural programming. That's good programming. But it is programming early on.
Yeah, but in other words, I am, even when I participated in a Hispanic affinity group, and I had a really great time there.
I thought you were Lebanese.
No, bro. Latino. That's why I can do I can do accents for like Latinos and shit. That's totally fine.
Oh my God.
I get the pass for that. I'm telling you, I wrote articles in my newspaper, student newspaper, about how white people should be able to wear sombreros. Like I do think that there's an aspect of
tú eres mi amigo, mi hermano. Tú eres mi amigo.
But I'm just trying to say, like, I think that there's different. The context is everything here, and whether we're okay with one or not, I think really does depend on in which sort of environment we're dealing with.
Agreed. Yeah. And I would say the reason people generally are okay with black affinity groups is because statistically black people are a minority. So that would make sense.
But also the specific heritage, the issue, and I'm sure you've been presented this before, of the loss of tribal identity, the loss of identity related to the particular more specific heritage. It's not too dissimilar, by the way, of American Indians, many of whom prefer to be called Indians because the breaking up of their various tribes due to disease, genocide, and warfare, all that stuff. That now the identity is a broader set of experiences. It's just American Indian. Well, what does American Indian mean? These were very diverse, at least in the continental America, like very diverse set of tribes, a very diverse set of circumstances. In what sense are they all unified? Well, what unifies them is this experience of colonization and the American colonization. And so those are historical facts, I think, that inform different attitudes and dispositions towards that.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I mean, look, nobody loves individualism more than I do, Pisco. but collectivism is important too. You got to balance the two. One is not better than the other. They must be brought into balance. And so on the one hand, collective, like every person is unique. Like go back to the solipsism. It's like, doesn't matter how close we are along every possible dimension. You might not even be conscious and I'm the only individual or vice versa. Okay, you can take it that far. Collectivism is literally, as long as we're the same skin color, that's all that matters. Let's go kill other people. You need a dark centrist compromise in between. And so like there is like, is there, I don't know, there's a black, like, is there a black experience that people can partake in? Yeah, probably. Hispanic. There's there's a quirked up white boy experience. Okay. In America in 2026, there's an experience, there's a League of Legends player experience, so it's like, I used to be like like everyone is an individual, just treat everyone as an individual, but it's like, now you're denying the collective reality and shared experience that's unique to others, unique to some people and not others. Anyway, all this was
gamer discrimination. Just one quick thing on that.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for saying that, man.
At a glance,
I've been called a nerd since day one, dude.
At a glance, society might put you in a box just based on your skin color. I don't know that they're making those same, and certainly all other aspects of who you are, how you present yourself, are relevant to how people immediately will label you or put you in a different place. It seems that race is a particular, I don't want, what's there to say? An important like characteristic that society has fought on for
years
and years and years, and where the angst is particularized on that ground specifically.
Yes, agreed, 100%. What was all this in service of?
Okay.
You asked me about one of those dangerous ideas. I like that. I felt on edge doing that. That was more fun. Let's do that.
So let's zooming back out.
Yeah.
We've examined a little bit of dark centrism. We've examined one of, I think the most controversial opinion you've presented so far is your belief that Ben Shapiro has dual loyalty, not in the trope sense, but in the actual sense.
Literal sense.
The literal sense of being...
Actually, I wouldn't even say dual loyalty. I'd say he's more loyal to Israel than the United States. So I don't want to be anti-Semitic, so I won't say dual loyalty. I'll say he cares more about Israel than the United States.
Okay.
And the thing is I'm just so effortlessly confident that everyone else who is informed on this will roll their eyes at how obvious that is.
Okay. Now, before we get into your prognosis or your assessment of the current political moment, and then I want to get to the Republican Party, I want to ask, in terms of solid, hard political theory, are you attached to anything in terms of the relationship between the state and the people, in terms of the economy, in terms of socialism? In other words, what is the importance of rights in your framework, and do you have any kind of allegiance to a more hard political or economic set of theories?
There's truth in every perspective.
You wouldn't call yourself a liberal. You wouldn't call yourself a...
No. Even though I agree with, like First Amendment, I die for type things, and I believe in individual rights and democracy and all that. The problem, we live in the post-consensus era. The word liberal means the exact opposite things to two different people, right? To a leftist, liberal means right-wing, right? Like neoliberal. Hasan Piker says, scratch a liberal, fascist bleeds. And then to a right-winger, a liberal means left-wing. So they literally mean not just different things, the opposite things. So it's almost like I don't even know what we mean. The part of the dark centrism is...
The rejection of identity and labels?
Sort of. Like, I just start with common sense. Like, okay, do we all agree that AI CSAM is bad? Like start with the basics. Because Richard Hanania disagrees. Okay, well, we can put Richard Hanania in the make fun of and marginalize camp. Even though I had a conversation with him, I'd like to talk to him again. Richard, we'll have a great conversation when we speak again. I won't marginalize and make fun of you, but I'm not against it. Yeah, and people who are like people with Jewish genes are by definition enemies. I go, okay, cool. You're not on you're outside the Overton window. That's just disgusting and immoral. So how do you draw those lines exactly?
What about people who say they want to preserve the whiteness of America? You treat that very differently.
This is excellent, case by case basis. See that you picked a good one right on the periphery. Preserve the whiteness of America. Here's what I'll say. I feel like, so I argue with the white nationalists all the time, and I say, if you motherfuckers ever complain, if I find a nice, beautiful black woman or a beautiful Latina woman or a beautiful Asian woman, and I marry that woman and we have a bunch of mixed race kids, if you call my kids, whatever racial slurs, I'll kill you. I'll come to your house and I'll kill you. Now, obviously I don't mean that because I'm weak and effeminate and I make YouTube videos, but I can at least flex my fake moral virtue. But I do mean that. I would like to see those people marginalized who would do that. On the flip side, I am kind of like, I don't want white people to go away. Even though I'm willing to have an interracial marriage and have mixed race kids, which is in theory diluting the white race, I'm kind of like, I still want some white people to be around. It could be nice.
Yeah, why?
I don't want, I don't know. Because it's kind of like, it's cool.
Is there like so
I
often hear it.
I'm a quirked up white boy. It's part of who I am.
How I often hear it is there's this almost like biological desire among a lot of people, maybe this culturally informed attitude.
It's a moral intuition
to make more of yourself.
Yeah, but I was actually going to write a Substack article on this particular. There's a very big difference between like white people are becoming a minority because they're not having children. And you can apply this to any race, but for the people who care about white purity, you can say, well, white people are there's less and less white people in America because they're not having kids, because the globalists are preventing people from having kids by porn and economic problems and all that. And it's like, porn and economic problems should be solved. But there's a big difference between if like two white people, or if I don't reproduce and have any kids, I'm not reproducing white kids. But if I marry a beautiful Latina woman, which I hope I one day do, Pisco, and if you got any cousins, let me know. And we have kids. Those are genetically, those are as much my kids as if I had a child with a white person. So I'm actually furthering white genes just like horizontally more. So like,
that's what I mean. I think that all these categories of race are by definition constructed. Not to say there isn't realness to genetics, but the Nazis had this problem in quote unquote defining the Jew, which they didn't ever do in the Nuremberg laws. They just had a reference to.
Didn't they make blood charts?
Right, but that didn't define what it is to be Jewish. And similarly with respect to white, I think that there's an incoherence sometimes, or at least a failure to suss out the genetic proximity that we're talking about here.
100% agree. Yeah.
Additionally, when I hear people say that it's one of their policy interests, and I've heard it's not just you saying stuff like that. It's not just people who are obviously race based, but people like Counterpoints. Counterpoint says he doesn't want white people to go away in some side, or at least that's part of what enforces immigration policy is the preservation of the white majority in America. And what I take exception with is it seems to base in an assumption, a normative assumption that, number one, kind of tracks a little bit with this Hitlerian view that racial struggle is an end in and of itself, a good thing, right? That it is about racial struggle, in other words. But also, I think it necessarily divides people, not based in terms of their inherent merit, but in terms of the random chance of genetics.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I just think it's a valid moral intuition to say, like, I'd like some white people to be around. Like, would you be, I mean, all things considered, or all things being, this is impossible. I'm not going to ask it. It's just like that.
Ask it in like 200 years from now. Would you like to know that your people?
Oh, well, here's what I say. The ideal world for me is everyone 200 years from now is the same shade of brown. That's ideal for me.
Wait, sorry, say that one more time.
My ideal world, this is almost kind of stupid because I'm not going to be around, but I have no problem whatsoever. If we're going to colonize the universe, if we're going to beat back the fucking aliens, we're going to have to all be the same shade of brown and cut with all the racial divide. Okay. And I had the idea, well, you don't want white people 200 years in the future. It's like, I want my genes in the future. I want my lineage to continue. Can't explain that. That's just like the desire to have children. I'm not going to bother to ask evolution. That's just what I feel. And I think that's a valid moral intuition. But I don't need them to look white if they have my genes, because they're going to have my schizophrenia, which is fucking phenomenal. That's the important thing that matters. However, what I don't like is if it's like, all right, white people should stop reproducing, or, this is like all you go to find some extreme professor in the New York Times, like, we should get rid of white people, all that stuff, whatever nonsense. It's like, I don't want white people to go away if every other race gets to keep themselves, because that's kind of like, what the fuck? What's going on? If we all agree we'll all be interracially married, we're all going to mix our kids up, great. But then I see like Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL be like, we got to do something about these Jewish interracial marriage rates. And I'm like, what? Or I see Brett Stevens say the same thing. Or I see black people say the same thing. And it's like, how can you say it's wrong for white people to want to intermarry and have their own white kids, but then you keep that for your own race?
Well, why don't we just say that it's wrong for both to prioritize the maintenance?
I would agree, but here's the thing, it's game theory. So I'm not saying it's wrong unless we both say it's wrong.
No Nazi Doobie wants to reach out to you, by the way. He just super chatted for that. But if you know who Doobie is.
What's his name? No Nazi Doobie?
No, it's no.
Oh, Doobie.
Yeah, Doobie, yeah.
Oh, you say no Nazi Doobie.
Yeah, my bad, yeah.
Well, no Nazi P.F. Jung, who just said he wants the world to be the same shade of brown 200 years from now. No, I really shouldn't be doing this. I've got Nazi credentials to try and keep up, all right? I'm really bringing in the far right people here.
I appreciate you giving some more. I think I need to sit with what you've told me about dark centrism. It doesn't sound like, because I asked you about like sort of like a hard political theory. You're not attached to a specific identity. You're not attached to a certain like coherent worldview that explains all of society's problems and how to approach them. You're not.
It's a heuristic. Yeah, okay, because I don't believe any world, because I believe the limits of human knowledge are such that any articulated theory is necessarily going to be insufficient. So you have to operate by heuristics instead.
Are you religious?
Yes, I'm definitely religious. Know what that means?
We'll have to be left for another day.
It's between me and God, yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that. Because I watched the video and I thought it was more process oriented. I thought it was more vibes based. I thought it was more heuristic like. And thank you for confirming.
It definitely is more heuristic like. Yes. Yeah. Well, hold on. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Well, based on what we've talked about so far, on a scale of 1 to 10, how dark centrist would you describe yourself? This is a question I should never ask people, by the way, but now
based on what we've talked about.
Yeah.
And as it's defined, I think I fully fit into at least some of the molds that you're talking about. Like, at least maybe I'm not self-aware of all my biases and stuff, but I don't want to reject an idea just because it comes from a certain place. I don't want to just like marry myself to a dogma or something. But all the vibes-based aspects of it, it doesn't seem like I fit. The vibes-based, personality-based, social-based aspects of that, it doesn't seem like I fit. And I regularly interact with people who I would consider more extremists. But by interacting, I mean I watch their content. I watch a lot of conservative stuff. But usually it's not because I'm like trying to steal ideas from them. Oftentimes it's just like keep an eye on them to see what they're talking about, to see their talking points, you know?
Sure.
And so that approach seems like it's antagonistic, as opposed to trying to find a synthesis with Groypers. I'm trying to destroy them. I'm trying to destroy MAGA. And so that project itself seems almost contrary to what dark centrism is. But I guess the process of, I'll finish on this, of not necessarily rejecting an idea because it comes from a certain place and being open to those ideas, I think I fulfill that.
I would agree. You know, Abraham Lincoln said, don't believe all the quotes you hear on the internet, but he also said, the best way to destroy your enemy is to make them your friend. You want to destroy the white nationalists?
Not the people. Like, this is not about like
no, the white nationalism, the ideology.
Yeah, I view it
as you understand it. Okay,
I feel like we'd be better off if there were far fewer of them. Same with MAGA. Like, so there are people who say something like this. They say, well, we need to join with MAGA and have a new thing, and together, and it's kind of like this dialectic. And and it's almost the same kind of thing where you see. Have you ever seen Star Wars, right? Where they're like, well, the balance of the Force is light side and dark side meeting together or something. No, I view MAGA as an aberration, and it needs to be eliminated. And that's kind of my view.
That's a fucking brilliant philosophical analogy, by the way.
Yeah.
Kreia is you played Knights of the Old Republic?
Yeah.
Okay, Kreia is the ultimate dark center, even though she's a Sith. Just imagine Kreia, but she turns good. That's dark centrism. Okay?
Yeah, I view Kreia as a bad person, as an antagonist, and I view the efforts to try to sort of treat the Sith or treat the MAGA as though it's something to which we ought to join. I'm like, no. We need to inoculate ourselves against these people, and they need to lose power.
I'm sure there are many people who would call me MAGA. Perhaps they're watching this stream. And it's like, dude, I would like to see MAGA destroyed. Howard Lutnick should be thrown in prison for just lying about it. I mean, he wasn't under oath, so maybe not prison. But like, I find these people disgusting. And and Trump is starting a war on Iran. It's just hypocritical. Pete Hegseth is a degenerate. Kash Patel's a fucking liar. You know, endless stuff. The best way to destroy your enemy is make them your friend. It's like, wouldn't you like? It depends on. I guess it depends on your goals. It's like, well, if the reason you hate MAGA is because they're not in favor of giving 13-year-old girls hormone blockers, I would say you should reevaluate why you hate MAGA. If you hate MAGA because
that's not why I hate MAGA.
Yeah, but surely yes, but there are many left-wingers who do hate MAGA for that reason.
I think that's.
I'm using that reason as like a stand-in for like woke nonsense.
It feels like a straw man. Yeah, no, I think that there are a lot of left-wing people who, for social reasons, despise MAGA. Maybe that's true, but I'm not. That's not.
Maybe that's true. That's for sure true.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably true.
Yeah. So,
but I wouldn't say it's because they want to give hormones all these. Like, that's a straw man of like a broader set of social concerns that they feel are being squashed.
Yes. Correct. And the Nazis didn't exterminate the Jews. They would say they liquidated them. Yeah, fine. If we want to use their framing. Okay. If the woke are cutting off the breasts of 13-year-old girls because they think they're the opposite gender, we could say they just want gender affirming care. Okay, fine. We can use their terms. My point is,
no, it's not about euphemism. I'm just trying to represent the view accurately.
Yeah.
And the view isn't just with respect to that would be a more kind of narrow view that's not showing up in the polling, right? It's a broader set of concerns, social concerns that usually.
I could be wrong. Wasn't the most I don't know how they measure the effectiveness of ads, but wasn't the most effective Donald Trump ad the Kamala's for they, them, and Trump's for you?
It was an effective ad. I don't know if it was the most effective ad.
I don't even know how you'd evaluate that. So I'm willing, if that's nonsense, I can put it aside. But I was actually, when I heard that and I was like, how are people, whatever. I was surprised by that because I'm like, I heard that ad and I rolled my eyes. I'm like, I spent online. This is not going to convince anyone. But it's like, when you put it that simply, for a lot of people who are just like,
okay, but deal with why I don't like MAGA. The reason I don't like MAGA is I think that it's a closed system of thought. I think that it is dangerous as applied. Culty. I think it destroys. You want to talk about like this bias towards history, which I think that you have with respect to your alarm / bias against new technologies, new things. You want to put those in like the quarantine for a little bit. I think that our system has produced really good results, the structure of our country, the 100%. Constitution, and I don't want to see that destroyed. We're the strongest country in the world. We have the biggest economy, and I think that it's a good structure, and I believe it protects our rights. So
I agree. I think we may be more aligned than we'll admit on stream, Pisco, to protect your and my reputation. I can't be seen fraternizing.
I like
with
Jews.
Cards. Listen, nobody loves Jews more than I do. How fucking dare you?
No, I mean, it really did. Listen, I know I'm not saying that you're anti-Semitic at all. I'm not at all. But it is funny to me, like you really don't like Israel, and that's fine. I think that Israel is doing awful things and shit. And I think though that like every single example you brought up was some form of like Jewish identity. But what about the fact that Howard Lutnick and Shapiro?
Okay, the Howard Lutnick one was just Howard Lutnick. He doesn't have to be Jewish for that to. It was him lying about him seeing Epstein. Fair enough. The Jewish identity one is because that's the most self-evidently obvious, controversial, divisive issue that is on everyone's fucking feed.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, I don't think you're anti-Semitic.
That's why I picked that.
I'm believing you.
I'll tell you. Yeah, and I'll just on that point because fair enough. People make this criticism all the time, and I have respect for ignorant people. That's fine. I'll address them. I am, by definition, interested in whatever the most controversial and divisive issue is at the time, because that, by definition, is the most important issue to bring a reasonable synthesis of both sides of like, they're seeing it this way, and these people are seeing it this way, and we need to get the total truth. Otherwise, we're both fucked. So with like Jewish identity, it's like, there's plenty of valid criticism to make about Judaism, the religion, and Israel, and Jewish culture, just as there's plenty of valid criticism to make about white culture, white Protestant Christianity, and whatever, and Islam, and Islamic theology, whatever, all that shit. And anti-Semitism is as bad as Jewish supremacy. That's my both sides dark centrist take. I'm sorry for putting that forward if people get mad at me. It says more about them than it does me. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's just so self-evident. And I lean into this because I know I'm right. And there's just so many ideologically blind people who are intelligent that I enjoy arguing with because I know I'm right and they're intelligent and I know they're wrong, which is the most engaging conversations to have, is when you know you're right, they're intelligent and they're wrong, and you just have to dance until they.
You mentioned three figures. You mentioned three figures that, in your mind, separated a kind of class of influencer or a class of personality, and those three figures were Destiny, Hasan, and Nick Fuentes. And just to close off this whole part about dark centrism, do you admire all three of them? And what are aspects of each of them that you try to synthesize into your own work and thoughts?
The answer is yes. I admire all of them. With Nick Fuentes, the funniest of the three, no doubt. And I think he makes oftentimes very correct geopolitical analysis. And I think he's an iconoclast, and you need like a berserker, right? You need people to be out there saying, I really just don't give a shit about the Holocaust if it's just going to constantly be thrown in my face every time we talk about Israel. That's fine. I think that's actually ultimately what needs to happen in order to move to a space where we can properly curb the genuine rise of anti-Semitism. Because it's precisely, you call someone a racist over and over again when they're not. They eventually become one. You call someone an anti-Semite over and over again, they eventually it's the same process. I think that's fairly obvious, but other people might say it differently. That's fine. So Nick Fuentes, Hasan. What do I remember about Hasan? I like him the least of the three. When
less than Fuentes.
Yeah, for sure. I've never seen Fuentes fake cry like Hasan did on the H3H3 podcast. That was fucking pathetic and so obvious to me. I'm like, at least Nick Fuentes has the I would say decency. I don't want Nick Fuentes having the decency. Not even Nick Fuentes would fake cry for that bullshit. I think Hasan is not in. Well, Hasan is clearly the dumbest of the three. You wouldn't even disagree with that.
In terms of raw
IQ,
I think probably yeah.
Okay,
but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's the worst in terms of.
He's not dumb.
Ideas.
He's probably got above average IQ. You have to be to be that successful.
I think that Fuentes is generally smart.
Maybe.
I think that Destiny is generally smart. I think that Hasan is smart.
Yeah, but
less.
Okay. But less so by just category. Yeah. What do I admire about Hasan? I mean, he's charismatic and he knows how to be normie coded, I guess, to all these fucking Gen Zers. I mean, I think the majority of people that watch Hasan, and I would say this is true, actually not for Destiny, but for Hasan and Nick now at this point. I think more than 50% of Hasan and Nick's viewer base watch them for the just raw entertainment. They could more or less take or leave the politics. Actually, but Hasan more so because he does like Jubilee stuff. Me?
I'm asking about you, yeah. What do you find valuable about Hasan?
Well, he makes points about, Palestine and wealth inequality and free speech when it suits him. So I like that. And then I think Destiny, I would say, is if you want someone to sniff out the weakest arguments of the right, Destiny, you just take him off the leash and he's like a rabid dog, just like he got the scent of a fucking weak ass conservative argument. He'll go find it. So I watch Destiny when I want to know, like, all right, if the Twitter files is propaganda, which it was, well, partly. It was definitely not just like Democrats bad, Republicans good. It was definitely not that. If I want to know if I'm right about that, I want to go watch Destiny debate someone on this, because I know he'll just sit on Wikipedia for 14 hours a day or for a week straight. I'm not going to do that. I'll let him do it and then just watch the debate, and then I can gather my insights from that. So he's very useful.
For a specifically ideological basis, you mentioned geopolitics with Fuentes. You mentioned income inequality or wealth inequality, perhaps, some stuff about Palestinians for Hasan, and anti-conservatism when it comes to Destiny. Is that a correct summary?
Yeah. I mean, I like each of them provides something useful to me. I'm able to learn, well, not Hasan Piker. There's smarter leftists than Hasan Piker. I won't listen. I mean, Who's a smarter leftist than Hasan Piker? I think Joshua Citarella is better. Tony from One Dime Radio is better. There's all kinds of smart leftists out there. Benjamin Studebaker.
We'll appreciate that. I want to transition this. I know that you're short on time, so I want to get right quickly to the current political moment.
Yeah, I can go for a half hour or so more. If it depends
awesome.
on what you
Perfect.
got.
So let me give you the paint with a broad brush. What's going on? What I think about everything. I basically think that we're in a disaster mode. The current state of the crisis in Iran is horrible. It's obviously an illegal, unjustified war, on my view. I think that the promises, a lot of which Trump made to the country, are showing themselves to be just like vapor and not something that he has any interest in addressing in any serious or substantive way. I basically think that he's attacking a lot of our most valuable institutions, liberties, etc. I'm hoping for a magnificent democratic resurgence, liberal resurgence that will finally, expel this virus of elite MAGAism, of Trumpism from our country. I don't think it will happen that easily. I'm a little bit more realistic about my expectations, but I really do think the moment for the country is horrific. And I'm just curious, like, what do you think of Trump so far? What do you think about what's going on in your country?
Broad question, Pisco. What do I think of? Let me hold on. What?
How's Trump doing?
Time? What?
Yeah, how's Trump doing?
How's Trump doing? Very, very poorly. And
what are the worst decisions he's made?
We'll go into war with Iran's pretty bad. Blocking more of the Epstein files from being released, calling up Marjorie Taylor Greene and saying, "Don't advocate for this because my friends will get hurt." All kinds of things. He sucks, and I loathe the fact that it was him, Kamala, and Biden were our three options. And I look forward to MAGA collapsing into obliterated dust, which I think will. I think when he's gone, the MAGA movement is a cult of personality. When the personality is no longer there, and he's what, 79?
He's 79, yeah.
Yeah. So the next couple of years, I mean, at minimum, he'll be taking it back. He's eaten too many cheeseburgers. And once he's out of the presidency, I'm sure he's just gonna be like, fuck it, I don't even care at this point. I enriched Jarrett and Ivanka. I did what I needed to do. And then in the vacuum, it's just gonna go back to neocon. It's gonna be Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly versus Ben Shapiro and Mark Levine. And I think Tucker and Megyn are gonna win, which is good.
Do you have any faith whatsoever in this? I'm gonna call it the Yarvin style, Teal style tech Republican, whose avatar currently is JD Vance. Maybe a version of it is in Vivek, but talk to me about JD.
Yeah, JD's interesting. No, I think Peter Thiel might be the Antichrist. I don't know. I think JD Vance makes accurate critiques of liberalism. Can
you just give a very quick little?
America's a people, not an idea. That gets into like immigration. That's I can't remember the exact clip, but it was a very good one of like liberals, because especially elite liberals, they tend to be surrounded by high achieving people of various races. They accurately in their own life assess that race really doesn't matter that much. And actually it truly doesn't matter if all these demographics change in a short period of time. But for like a working class person in like an urban environment, I think the reality of race and, tribalism is a little bit more on the forefront for them. And so
what is it, American then? It's not an idea, it's a people. Is it just the people born in this country, in the territory?
I'd be a lot richer and mildly more successful than I am now if I had an answer to that question.
And how do you know it's not an idea?
It's like, how do I know when the color blue turns into the color purple? It's like, it's kind of a culture is an amorphous, by definition, impossible to define. You can't fully articulate every aspect of culture. But we know what is more similar and what is less similar. I can say, for example, if you don't speak English, I'd prefer that there were less people who can't speak even not conversant, but like survival level almost. If you can't even speak bare minimum English, you probably should not be coming to this country. Right? We're at a point where we just don't have I had a conversation with Benjamin Studebaker, who's a leftist theorist, and he made this point of like, if you have a high school and you bring 50 Chinese exchange students over, that's actually not good. Because if you bring 50 is enough where there's going to be a cohesive clique the whole time. There won't be, you're going to have all Chinese lunch tables. You're going to have the Chinese students all sit in the back of the room. You're not going to have the interaction. But if you had 10 Chinese students and dispersed them, then you have a cultural exchange that's going to happen just by necessity of you don't have these cultural enclaves that will actually be beneficial for everyone. The natives will be more, oh, these are cool people. And the Chinese will learn stuff in the process. It's just a threshold phenomenon. And, what's the threshold? It's you can do it from, there's actually no way to know for sure. You can't actually do peer-reviewed studies that will tell you. I mean, data is important. But it's like, I hear repeatedly, I live in Austin, Texas. I have friends that live in Minnesota. They'll go to the grocery store, talk to 3 different people. None of them speak English. Like people who work there. That's a problem. Uber drivers I can't communicate with. It's like, oh, this is a first world problem. It's like, well, it's not a problem. I can still get where I'm going. That's not the problem I'm talking about. The problem is, it's like, damn, what happens in an emergency? And if I knock on my neighbor's door and he doesn't speak English, it's like, well, we're not even. It's a dissolution of the social fabric, and it's not a genetic identity. It's a mimetic one. It's a cultural one. Anyone can become an American, but it takes time to assimilate. And I think the liberal mentality is you can just come here and it's just an economic zone more or less, and as long as you abide by the rules, the laws, that's all that matters. Like there's a bit more that makes an American than just abiding by the laws. What that is somewhat difficult to define, but it is there.
And so for that aspect of it, which I would identify with a strand of nativism more, it's less like the Trumpian one. They're bringing the diseases, they're rapists or whatever. Right? That seems to be a more kind of revulsion at immigration. And that's not what you're describing at a bare minimum. More something akin to like the Vivek vision, maybe the J.D. Vance vision. J.D. Vance's wife is Indian. His son is named Vivek. And so in general, you have no issue with other races coming to the country, do you?
No, not if they assimilate and they can, I would say it's just, it depends on how colloquially we're speaking. Mm-hmm. So it's like, are race and culture separate? Well, I think in a technical sense, 100%. Yes, it's like race and last name. If a Chinese woman marries a guy named Smith, her last name is Smith. Therefore, the race and the last name are totally and fundamentally separate because you can fundamentally separate them. But race and last name are correlated. Like Zhang is going to be, even though it's a name, and could, like most people who have the last name Zhang are Chinese, and Smith, whatever. So it's like, are race and culture separate? Well, fundamentally, at one level of analysis, obviously, hence you can assimilate. But on the other hand, if a bunch of people who are just a totally different race, and like Somalians, if a bunch of Somalians come to America in a short period of time and they all move to one city, or a bunch of Haitians all come from one place, they all go to one city. They don't spread out. They don't disperse. They'll go to one city, and then they vote as a racial bloc. Well, that's actually okay. That's not assimilation. That's kind of the opposite of what it means to be an American, where we don't we treat everyone as an individual. But that's not happening. Of course, you have cultural enclaves like Little Italy or whatever, but like Little Italy is not a political voting bloc, versus like the population in Dearborn, Michigan, which is like religious Muslim. That's more real.
White people kind of are a voting bloc. I know that there's a lot of.
Are they?
They are certainly. There's a significant difference in how they vote versus other races. I mean, what sense are white people?
White women definitely vote liberal. No, actually, didn't white women vote for mostly Trump actually this last election?
I think
First time in a while. I saw Joy Reid saying white women failed us, I think, for that reason.
Maybe, I don't know. But like,
classic.
In given areas, it's highly, especially in the South. Maybe in the overall country, I would agree with you that white people are more, apt to vote for different parties. If you look at, it's highly racially stratified, the voting for among African Americans, for example, black people, less so, I would say, with white people. But in given areas, they can form those kinds of voting blocks. I don't think
sure. Well, yeah. I'm speaking broadly though.
All right, I'm going to make a statement. I don't think that you're going to disagree with me. There is no chance that Paul will endorse a Democratic candidate for president in 2028.
There's no chance that I will endorse
any of the mainstream ones that are being
like Gavin Newsom.
I'm going to list them all: Newsom, AOC, Pritzker, Shapiro, John Ossoff, Kamala Harris. Let me think others. Jon Stewart.
Look, I voted for two presidential candidates rather in my lifetime. Joe Biden in 2020 and then Jill Stein in 2024. The Jill Stein vote was a fuck you to both parties, and I just wanted the polls to be like, why are people wasting their time to go vote for Jill Stein? Because fuck you, that's why. Even though I paid $10, so that was kind of goofy on me, but whatever. $10 to park and then go vote. Would I vote for a Democrat? Maybe. If I shouldn't reveal my financial, what's it called? Financial
situation
entanglements.
No.
I do have several $100s in bets that Tucker Carlson will be the Republican nominee for 2028.
And you support him.
I'm campaigning for Tucker Carlson.
The guy's a liar.
Every politician is.
No, but this man is scarcely human. I mean, you look at this person, it's all
scarcely human.
Yes.
What about Gavin Newsom?
Yeah, Newsom.
Gavin Newsom's pretty scarcely human too, I'd say.
Newsom, I think, at a bare minimum, is constrained by fact in a way that just not ever something that's operated on Tucker Carlson's.
Give me an example.
Yeah, so Tucker Carlson knows
what he's been mauled by a demon.
Oh, just put that aside. I mean, those are obvious ones. But but anyway, you know what? People have spiritual experiences. I'm not here to say one way or the other. Just take this whole Charlie Kirk thing.
Yeah,
Tucker knows what he's doing when he says, "Isn't that weird that we can't ask questions about what happened to Charlie?" He knows what he's doing there is festering a totally baseless, without any evidence whatsoever.
I reject this framing.
Conspiracy. Well, I'll let you respond to it. Okay. Peddled by people like Candace Owens et al. That the Charlie Kirk et al.
Fucking lawyer.
And the rest is
you call
was
a nerd
assassinated
and a spaz. This is stop saying at all. You'll boost your aura if you stop saying at all. Okay, that's right.
Okay. At all, and they all
that's fair.
They know about this. They know this. They know what they're doing. They know what they're peddling.
Yeah,
and he did it yesterday or 2 days ago with
Joe Kent.
With Joe Kent.
Yeah. Okay. We just disagree that it's totally baseless to say it's unreasonable to think that given Charlie Kirk being like the number one advocate who could have prevented the war in Iran, that maybe Israel in all of its maliciousness could have done something like kill Charlie Kirk. I think the fact that Candace Owens is pushing for it is probably the biggest evidence that it's not true. Because she said, Charlie Kirk visited me in a dream. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to go with not true. Nick Fuentes says this is nonsense.
Let's pause that real quick. Let's pause that. Okay, we'll go back to it. The follow-on that without any skepticism, without any criticism, Joe Kent says, explicitly suggests that Donald Trump is doing this war because he's worried about the bodily autonomy and saving his family because Israel's going to assassinate, not him, because of course Trump is very brave and he would obviously take the bullet like he did before in Butler, but he's specifically being targeted by Israel for his family to be assassinated. And that's why he's doing this war in Iran without any pushback whatsoever from Tucker Carlson.
Hold on. How is that not an obvious logical possibility?
Well, anything that it doesn't entail a contradiction is a logical possibility.
Okay, how is it not completely plausible?
It's not plausible to me that's what happened.
Israel doesn't have a history of assassinating people?
Because there's no evidence of it.
Do you believe it's totally baseless and conspiratorial and insane for people to think that the CIA and or Israel was involved in killing JFK?
It is.
You think
totally,
people who believe
yes.
that are insane?
Yes. Or they don't know the facts.
Okay. Well,
it was one guy. It was Oswald.
I'm not convinced.
It was one guy. It was Oswald, and that's what the evidence show.
Can I be honest? How deep have you looked into this?
Oswald? JFK?
How many hours have you spent into the JFK assassination?
Probably 12 hours totally.
Okay. Well, I'd have to see it. I'm just not convinced when you say it's baseless and other people say it's very obvious. People who are not quacks.
Okay, so let's not work in the actual allegations themselves. But if it's true, right? Like if it were true, let's say it were true that the intelligence agencies did kill JFK, which I think is a perfectly plausible. That's not the hypothetical. We can deal with that one. Yeah, sure.
Go. Oh, okay. Well, let's deal with it. Let's do it. Yeah. Which I don't. It's kind of like it's every time I run into one of these. It's like if I'm debating I'm using this to draw a point, not to say these are the same degree and intensity. But if I bring up like, from an evolutionary point of view, humans are like this way, and someone says evolution's fake, the Earth is 6,000 years old. I go, I can't debate you on this. Admittedly, I haven't looked into it, but like JFK, I'm very confident that it is not as clearly, obviously false as you're asserting it to be. And I think there are very mainstream people who would say, yes, there's very clear anomalies. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but that's fine. So let's just say,
let's work on the hypothetical.
How about this? This is much more plausible. Let's say that Trump believes that, because a lot of people do. So it's perfectly plausible that Trump could believe that. So if Trump was under the belief that intelligence agencies were willing to kill a president for not doing what they want, then it would stand to follow very plausibly that he would have that same fear about Israel and the CIA in the current moment.
I mean, I get what you're suggesting is that like, well, couldn't it be a belief that someone might reasonably think that Trump holds, given that so many people hold it? I think that even that claim needs evidence. I think the evidence suggests that he was being told that Iran was trying to kill him. And so even if you're going to do like on a basis of like, well, Trump believes X, Y, or Z. I mean, he was being told, and there actually is a conviction now for someone who at least admits after the fact that the IRGC, now you could say that's a plant from Israel, whatever, but now we're just dealing with the terms of reasonable belief about Trump's beliefs. There is a conviction to that effect, and that's what he was being told by his own intelligence people, by the Biden administration, and ultimately by Israel itself. And so this whole, right, like the claim is that Israel is posing an imminent threat to Trump or his family members' lives. And
real quick. Tucker Carlson said this is the case?
No.
He implied it.
It's the game that he does. And again, there are a trillion examples of this where he will do I don't know why they would do that. And I don't know why. Doesn't it seem odd that?
Okay, well, hold on. Let's just, I guess, okay, if we're just going to think through it. Do you think Israel would do anything to ensure its security?
Do anything? Absolutely anything?
Do you think Israel would go so far as to assassinate a U.S. president to get away to maintain their security? If they were genuinely faced with...
If they felt it was absolutely necessary.
If the alternative was we're literally going to get nuked by Iran if we don't do this.
I don't put it past them to do that. If that really were their assessment. But
okay, so then why is it ridiculous to presume that Trump might be under that belief?
I think it's ridiculous to make that implication without clarifying that it's totally baseless, number one. But two, I just think there's no evidence to support the claim that that's what Trump is thinking.
Yeah, it's called inductive reasoning.
Based on what? What is the body of thing that would suggest that Trump has that belief?
Well, why did you just say that you don't put it past Israel that they would assassinate a U.S. president to maintain their own security?
Because that's, I think, I think any nation would do something like that. I think America would do it.
Okay, so
I think America has supported assassinations before they felt were in its national interest.
We literally tried to kill
let alone existential interest. So to me, just like any country would do so.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, it's okay. So there we go. That's inductive reasoning. We know any country would be willing to do it. If Israel, I don't doubt that they genuinely believe that if the U.S. doesn't back them up, Iran will nuke them. Okay, well then they go, listen, bring the big guns or something's going to happen. How that just seems, how could you rule that even out? How, like, to imply that that's not likely is almost, the weight of evidence is on you in that regard. I
think it's baseless. I think that the burden of proof is on the person alleging I understand it's an implication. It's like, well, isn't that weird? Is it, you think that could happen? But like, the whole point is, this is the kind of person who will say anything, just like Joe Kent, by the way, if he feels it's within his authority. I mean, Joe Kent was advocated in favor of strikes on Iran during the 2024 election. I mean, Joe Kent and Tucker Carlson, they were Bush guys. These are neocon guys. Yeah. So these guys are.
So what do you
chameleons.
think? Okay, so let me ask you. Okay, so let me ask you. Let's live in your world where we don't have inductive reasoning on this.
It's completely baseless. No.
I think that's pretty fair. I think it's very obvious.
I acknowledge the possibility. And
it's not only the motive. They also have the capability. I mean, the pager thing. If they can pull off the pager thing, I mean, it's not like they're Israelis openly embedded in the Lebanese government. They have to use agents. The Israeli-U.S. relationship is thick as thieves. And Ted Cruz, who's like the #1 Israel fan, says, of course they spy on us. And we know that they've stolen our nuclear secrets. Like, they have a history of doing all this. So it's like, if Israel really wanted to, could they, hurt, just forget kill or whatever, just like cause harm to Trump's family?
Yes.
In order to get what you want? Yeah, of course. You'd have to be insane to think otherwise.
No, but I'm acknowledging
motive is there and capability is there.
Well, I don't think the motive is there. I don't think that killing Trump accomplishes that goal or his family. I'm not sure that it does.
Well, maybe if it gets him to fucking deploy the troops.
This would be true of like 9/11 too. Do you have a view that Israel's behind 9/11?
I suspect they had. I mean, we know for a fact that I forget which security agency had gotten a tip that ended up being exactly true. The problem is, of course, they get like 2,000 tips a day. So
no, but the same level of inductive reasoning that you just provided for Trump, why would that be true?
I was going to say, I suspect, to be honest, see, if I'm a responsible content creator, I should give you the most honest answer, which is, I only know like the memes of like dancing Israelis, and I've seen the thing, and the Israeli art students, and like I'd have to look into it to tell you the arguments. I do not put it past Israel at all that they had foreknowledge that some people within Israel actually wouldn't even be, it probably would be more like a rogue section of it, had foreknowledge of 9/11 and did not pass the information on to us. I would say the same about October 7th. I think it's perfectly plausible that there were people in Israel, not the majority, it's plausible that there are people in Israel who had prior knowledge that the attack on October 7th was going to happen, and people who could have informed people to do something differently didn't do it. I think Charlie Kirk speculated that, and Charlie Kirk's the most pro-Israel guy around. So,
well, according to Tucker, thank you guys for the raid. According to Tucker, he was changing his mind on that, and that's part of the
indisputed. No one disputes that now. The text, Charlie's closest associates who disputed it at first admit that that's true. At that one meeting with Bill Ackman where he was screaming at him or whatever, and all the text screenshots came out.
But when you look at this kind of
all of this, sorry, if I may, because you're asking about Tucker, right. So I guess my question is, what's true about Tucker that isn't also true about Gavin Newsome that should make me not vote for him?
I think that Gavin Newsome is constrained by a system that is not a closed system, and which meaningfully is bound by certain fact-based assessments, and that Tucker is not, and that the people who are loyal to him have no meaningful constraints on reality either. That's not true of the Democratic Party and all the apparatus that Gavin would need to rely on. And so that's one of the reasons. And I'm just gonna be honest with you. I think Gavin is a better person than Tucker.
I think they are both. I think they're of the same. Warhammer 40K by any chance?
I know by reference to Connor trying to explain it to me, and I saw a mini channel.
This will make reference. They're of the same gene seed. Okay, they are. Gavin Newsome and Tucker Carlson might as well. They could literally just switch into each other's skin suits and do an equally good job. They're just fighting for the same. They're slick talking white dudes who know how to lie and fake laugh, and So like,
do you want to talk about fake laugh and Tucker when he goes like?
Oh, I know that's the most annoying fucking thing. Oh, look, I did a video on Tucker and said of course he's a propagandist. He was like he was saying like, I'm pretty sure we've given up on the theory of evolution. He talks like Milo Yiannopoulos.
What do you admire about him? What do you admire about this guy?
Oh, what do I admire about him? He's anti-war. He's willing to criticize MAGA. He's, I think he's very anti-identity politics. That's why he gets in beef with Nick Fuentes all the time. I think he accurately gives voice to people who are sick of anti-white racism, while at the same time drawing clear boundaries of going too far and saying white identity politics is a Nazi idea. He's been consistent on that for the last 3-4 years. Hasn't changed a tune on that. I think then there's just the cynical things of like, I think people would vote for him. I think he would do well on a debate stage.
Those are all valid things to consider if you want him to win, obviously. I promise you that I wouldn't make this too debatey at the start of it, but no, that really, I'm concerned by it because I think this guy is, you can't trust him. I really do think that you can't trust him. You can't trust people like Joe Kent. I think
you can't trust Gavin Newsom.
No, like you really can't trust. You might not be able to trust Gavin Newsom.
Joe Kent. What? Hold on, Joe Kent. Joe Kent fought in Iraq against Iranian proxies. He supported, like you said, the strike against Soleimani, which was the most recent one. So he's been pro-military action against Iran. His wife died in Iraq, or I think Syria, maybe. Syria. Well, so what's your explanation? Well, he just is a psychopath and he's just wanting to stir up trouble?
So a couple things. So the first is when people change their views radically. So for example, when someone who is like a big like Republican guy switches all over to Democrat, or someone who was like a socialist and then becomes more fascistic. Think about like, we want to talk about Giovanni Gentile and Mussolini. Mussolini was a socialist, right? When people have big changes in political identity, I like to know the reasoning for that. You know, when someone like Donald Trump is claimed to be a dove, I want to know, well, hang on a second. Why have you changed? Have you changed? Number one, what is the explanation? What caused you to do this versus that, right? At a bare minimum, everyone makes fun of Anna Kasparian. And I don't agree with Anna on a lot of stuff. At a bare minimum, Anna tries to offer an accounting for why she's different politically. Someone like I like Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth was one of the biggest war cheerleaders. Tucker Carlson was one of the biggest war cheerleaders. And a lot of these guys, and Joe Kent included, to go from a Bush guy to a Sanders guy to a pro-Israel Trump guy, he was talking shit about Fuentes for being, in principle, anti-Israel. And now he's shifting his position.
Fuentes is beefing with him,
to carve out a lane for himself. So when you have all these massive shifts in ideology and you don't have what I consider to be adequate explanations for those, my alarm bells go off. And by the way, they go off with not just people on the right, people on the left too. When I get the sense
that's fair.
That someone is trying to tell me what I want to hear, and I don't understand, I get very, very fucking suspicious. That's number one. I'll let you respond if you want to. I have more though.
Well, I just think the same can be applied for. I don't watch.
Gavin. Yes. So Gavin, let me address it. So Gavin has always governed kind of as in this like moderate centrist way, and he's self-identified as being like a more moderate type centristy guy. He called himself like the moderate centrist of a mayor of San Francisco. I don't put it past him to be a political chameleon and to change, just like any other politician. But it's not these wide sweeping swings from. Think about it. From Sanders to pro-Israel Trump to anti-Israel Trump to Bush neocon. It's not that wide of a fucking swing there back and forth in terms of his ideas. He's always kind of been pro-LGBT. He's always been a kind of centristy guy. And that's how he kind of operates, There are some differences. There are some changes. But yeah, go ahead.
I guess I'll admit I change my mind on things fairly often. It's partly why the dark centrism thing is not, it is a heuristic. It's an approach. I don't want to commit to one idea per se. But I commit to an approach to getting the right idea. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, she was only a congressperson for what?
Yeah, that's another great example. That's another great example.
Okay. But here's my point. I totally believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene's transformation is genuine. Like she went in there, the most pro-Trump woman possible, saw how the system was.
She was pro-Kevin McCarthy.
She's pro what?
She was pro-Kevin McCarthy.
versus Mike, or what was the? It was her and Matt Gaetz.
She was standing Kevin McCarthy. She was standing like, let's not change anything. She was trying to go along to get along, and now she gets this little. Listen, maybe it's not all grift or whatever. She was always kind of crazy in my mind, kooky, and she tries to be like, oh, I'm sorry for all the things I said, like not quite apologizing.
Yeah, I believe that.
It.
I just totally no. She's literally said on CNN, "I'm sorry." She said, "I take responsibility for contributing." I think that's genuine. I think she went in total outsider, kind of a nutso, believing in Trump's bullshit. Went in, saw how it was, got a call from Trump saying, "Don't release the Epstein files because it'll hurt my friends," and she went, "Oh, now I see how this really is."
You think it's a change in consciousness, or do you think it's because she didn't get the political power she wanted and she was ostracized by Trump? I don't think it's because she's like, oh, I felt bad that I was racist and that I said all this fucked up shit in Jewish space.
Well, listen, I don't want to sound too woke here.
Yeah.
But I genuinely believe that when she like has talked intimately with all the Epstein victims who were like raped as children or all that, molested as children. Sorry, I'll channel my inner Michael Tracy. It's not rape, I suppose. It's molesting a 14-year-old, whatever.
It's
fine.
Statutory rape.
Fine. Okay. Yeah.
But just for the censors and for the algo.
Yeah. Fine.
They flagged the video when I said that too many times.
That's okay. That's fair. I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene actually was like, no, I'm standing with these women because she's a woman and she has a daughter, I believe. And I think that's genuine. And I tend to, again, it's all intuition. Like, do I know that Hasan Piker was fake crying on the H3H3 podcast? I suppose I don't know for sure, but if I showed it to 15 people who don't know who it is, they'd be like, this is fucking fake. Whereas when I see Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about like, no, I was fucking pissed that the president was telling me that his friends are going to get hurt and I'm not going to help these women. No, I'm standing with the women. Like, I believe that.
So maybe we're in one of those moments where the vibes are different. And listen, I think that there's evidence-based reasons to doubt Marjorie Taylor Greene, but if you really see her and you think that she's sincere, ditto with Tucker. I mean, I just view Tucker as someone who's willing to say or do anything for power or for.
I don't think it depends. Okay.
JD Vance similarly. JD Vance is someone who right now.
JD Vance is faker than Tucker.
JD Vance is faker than Tucker. Maybe, yeah.
Actually, I don't know how you even.
I'm not sure. They're very comparable.
Tucker's fake laugh is pretty.
They're very comparable, and they're allies. They're very comparable, and they're allies. Yeah, it's
and
I view that as in any respect. Just to back up again, I view like the mainstream Democratic people who will sometimes lie, who will sometimes be totally fake as fuck. I just view them as more reined in, more subject to constraint, in a way that these people are not. And I don't put it past them to do corrupt criminal things. But in terms of just like being enthusiastically supportive of a candidate, I just don't think Tucker deserves your level of support. But maybe.
Well, I appreciate. I appreciate that you have such high regard for who my support is going towards. I'm
always interested in who the people are.
If I spent 20 minutes finding what has Gavin Newsome said about how many genders there are and whether or not illegal immigrants should get health care, it's like I could just be like, this person is not America first.
Is that a main issue for you? I mean, look at where that thinking has gotten conservatives, right? The thinking about the trans, he's for they, them, whatever.
What's a main issue? I'm using it as a stand-in for just being too woke in general.
Let the people be woke if they want to be woke.
I don't think illegal immigrants should get health. I'm kind of left wing on healthcare. I think we should have a national healthcare system. That doesn't work if anyone who comes here can just get it, even if they're illegal.
Yeah, so we have
there has to be constraints. This is why Bernie Sanders is.
There are constraints. If you're not here without any status, your access to these programs is much, much lower. I'm not aware who's advocating for specifically for illegal immigrants to have like full insurance when they're here. I don't know. Maybe they exist, but that is a plan that is markedly to the left in the sense of wokeness to where I would say most Democrats are. Okay, we can. If I was an asshole, well, I am an asshole. I'd say I'm going to ask you this question, get your answer, and then I'll clip it to a bunch of music, and then owned. Yeah. If a Democrat politician who's considering running for 2028 is on record saying, I would be in favor of healthcare of not disqualified, no. Healthcare.
Okay, I don't mean, first off, no one can actually, you can't turn away anyone at a hospital. Like, doesn't matter who they are. That's just, people are under this impression.
The reason people are bringing that up, it's valid to bring it up. The reason people are bringing that up is because, in a way, because of how costs are passed off, whether you like it or not, these people are playing a role in how expensive healthcare is in this country. And that's just by operation of the function that we don't deny people at the emergency room. And so whether you like it or not, you're paying, right? So like you can say we shouldn't pay, but you are paying. And I think that there are cases in which the government should pay for illegal immigrants' healthcare.
Well, I agree. I don't think I think it should be, and I believe it is federally illegal for any hospital to turn away someone with emergency care. Now, there's all kinds of incredibly fucked up shit where someone's like on the operating title and they got to sign a fucking piece of paper about the healthcare. Again, I'm left wing when it comes to healthcare. Okay, we need a serious fucking reform here. And I think there's a lot of MAGA and Marjorie Taylor Greene people who agree with that. And Cenk Uygur, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Hasan Piker. Cenk Uygur's as close as you're going to get. Like, there's a real mass of people who agree on economic left-wing reforms and just say, like, let's not just, as long as you don't call me racist or whatever, for not wanting to trans the kids, and I just use that example as the too woke thing as general, then you get a real coalition there. And I think people would be wise to try and identify that and make use of that. Do you think Cenk Uygur sucks?
That's a complicated question. So,
okay, that's fair.
Yes and no. So,
okay,
I watched Cenk growing up, man. I mean, like I looked up to him a lot, and I think that there are some ways in which he's very charismatic and has some good ideas, but it's this brain rot that I see with him to try to resolve. And I think this is even contrary to your view, right? Like, I think this is actually diametrically opposed to your view, to try to solve the world's problems in a paragraph or two. It's the donor class. It's the money, Lebowski.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's
the whole dark money in politics is the number one thing. It's like how many billions of dollars did Bloomberg spend? I think it was.
Yeah, it did nothing, right? Exactly.
Fucking nothing.
Biden had like no money in the primary, and he won the primary.
Well, that's because they rigged it for him. But yeah, that's fine.
I don't believe that. But so Cenk, I think he's blinded by that ideological fixation, and then I think he's also led astray by these kind of personal dynamics and bad relationships with other people, some of whom have genuinely done him wrong, but others who I think he's fucked over sometimes. And that produces a very complicated, in my mind, I mean, this is all parasocial. He's responded to me a few times on Twitter, a very complicated relationship where I will sometimes cheer him on, and sometimes I'm like, dude, what the fuck? So yeah, that's my response.
That's fair. Can I ask you one final question?
Yeah, for sure.
It's fairly specific. I guess, and you don't have to give me an actual number, but you can give me, a size. What percentage of Nick Fuentes' regular viewers, if they could, would want to expel Jewish people? And by Jewish people, I mean people with Jewish genetics.
I think something on the order of 30 to 40%. It depends on if Nick endorses it.
Okay, that's fair. Let's just say as of right now, like Nick hasn't commented that he doesn't. It's not on the table right now. But if you could interview them and say, would you support that? They'd go. You say 30 to 40%.
Yeah. So this is just a guess, a stab in the dark. The reason I say that is because, Nick, even though I think is clearly anti-Semitic, he doesn't have a Hitlerian outlook, and I know that might surprise people.
Whoa.
But,
yo, you want to unlist the stream, dude? This is. We dude, I don't want to get you canceled, man.
Just from an ideological perspective,
you got too cozy with the Nazi, bro. Now you're starting that Hitler's not actually a Nazi. Or
no. I'm saying that
is not Hitler.
I don't think that he shares, at least as espoused, the ideology of Hitler himself. Even though he will praise Hitler, he will say we need a Hitler. I think that they're rooted fundamentally in a different ideological grounding, which is relevant and which needs to be considered. And so, for example, Hitler kind of viewed even Christianity and Catholicism as Jewish inventions and as something to be, collaborated with potentially. You compromise with Catholicism, but he wasn't Catholic. Now you could say, well, Nick's not a true Catholic, but they just seem to come from different ideological bents. Not to say that they're not both anti-Semitic, and they're both, I think, fascist. I think that Nick is a fascist, definitely a fascist, but it's a different kind of fascism.
I'll even agree with you for that.
And he's not as I would say he's not as like fixated.
Actually, I think he is unironically a fascist. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's unironically a fascist. I don't think he's as fixated on the elimination of this problem through the elimination of, quote, the Jew. That's something that I think is not been expressed as such. Although I definitely think that he would like remove their citizenship, or he would make it so they're illegal to vote if he had power. But I'm not convinced necessarily just yet that he would do forced expulsion.
All right. Well, you'll end up in a big Joel hit piece here at some point. But okay, so 30 to 40%, let's say. Let me ask you. Actually,
I could be totally wrong about this. That's just my.
No, I know it's a vibe. I know it's a total vibe. Yeah. But I'm curious if you. Okay, so let me specify, because I got to make the analogy. What percentage of Nick's audience, if they had the opportunity, would kill or do physical harm to Jewish people?
Absent Nick say so?
Absent Nick's direct say so, but let's say Nick doesn't disavow. Let's say right now, if I just took of Nick's regular audience and I asked them and I got their honest answer, like, do you think, like, would you be willing to engage in political violence against Jewish people on the basis of their genes? Yeah. What percentage of his audience do you think it would be?
10 to 18%.
Okay. Now, what percentage of Hasan Piker's audience, regular audience, would be willing, if I asked them, would you be willing to do political violence against billionaires?
Billionaires specifically?
Yes.
30
or
to 50?
I don't know, fucking millionaires.
30 to 40, perhaps. 30 to 40.
Okay.
These are just shots. It's pure vibes.
I kind of agree. I think, yeah, totally. This is pure vibes. We have no way of knowing. I feel like when Hasan Piker says, let the streets run red with their capitalist blood, we have the sense that it's not as bad because it's not race-based and the billionaires maybe deserve it and all that. But in terms of like the probability of political violence, I actually would trust Nick Fuentes to actually, like, kind of what your intuition that it's not Hitlerite outright. He has different political ambitions, fascist as they may be and terrible for everyone as they may be. He actually would be quicker to condemn violence than Hasan Piker. It's one of the reasons I don't like Hasan Piker.
As a
I like
political
Nick Fuentes more than Hasan Piker.
As a political expedient, not ideological. I don't know that it's ideologically based.
Maybe he's fucking Snape and he's like a fake whatever the fuck he is, and he's good ultimately in the end.
I just think that I think that it's as a political expedient. I don't know that Fuentes is principally against the use of violence. I mean, in some respect, he wants a more imposition.
I don't know at all what's going on in his head
from the state, from a violent perspective, when it comes to mass deportation. And so I think that part of his...
Oh, sure, yeah. He's kind of gross about that.
And in some sense, listen, I don't think that fascism is by itself this, but fascism, part of the clusters I think that need to be identified is this belief in political violence, that it is a method a legitimate method by which to take over a country and send it in the right direction. And one of the problems with the Trump administration, as Nick sees it, is that it's not more like Caesar. It's not just ignoring the law and just seizing things using political violence, going after its enemies, going after people within the country. And so I don't think it's a principled position against political violence. I think that it is an expedient that he'll say those words against it.
Yeah, that's fair. I can't speculate what's going on.
I've taken up so much of your time. I want to give you any final closing thoughts before we let you go, but I do appreciate the conversation.
Okay, we were just saying peace.
We're saying peace. Thank you. Yeah, put me in contact if you want to do a guided discussion. That's totally fine. Just let me know what the parameters are and when we do it. And thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Later, brother.
Godspeed. Peace.